We are live.
Cool. So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session. This is part of the Xamarin Marathon sessions. I'm glad today to have with me MVP Hossein Delai, who will deliver a session or workshop about how to start developing your Xamarin Forms applications. This is the first part. For the second part, we'll move to your questions and we'll answer them. So let's start with MVP Hossein Abdullah.
Thank you, Firas. So here I'll start with a little demo about Xamarin Forms to show you how you can get started if you are new to Xamarin. This means you have just installed Visual Studio 2017 with Xamarin Forms, and now you want to build your first application. So it will take just 5 minutes to show you how you can get started quickly and easily. So you need to have Visual Studio. You can download it from visualstudio.com. You can choose the community version, which is a free version. Then you install Visual Studio on your Windows machine. If you have Mac, then you can use Visual Studio for Mac. And then you are ready to start your first Xamarin Forms application. So to start with, here I can share my screen. Share my Windows machine. Application window, Windows 10. Share. Good. So now from here, I'm running Visual Studio. I hope you can see my screen. Good. So now I'm running Visual Studio, and within Visual Studio, I'm going to create new project, file, new project. From here, I choose a cross-platform app because I want to create a Xamarin Forms application. But if you want to create a native application for Android, then you might pick Android right here, or iOS if you want to target iOS. But here we'll choose cross-platform to build Xamarin Forms application that runs on both Android, iOS, and also on Windows. Give it name app2, for example, then we're going to create this app. The second window that's shown here is asking me to choose between shared projects or portable class library. And here, the difference in one word is the recommended is to use portable class library, because shared project, it enables you to write Android code, Android specific code with iOS specific code in one class, in one file. And that's not good, because with lots of mixed code, you will arrive at a point where you don't, where it's really difficult to separate or to understand the code. So we choose portable class library. That's the recommended path to go through. And here I have, of course, by default, checked Xamarin Forms. Click OK to create this project. And now Visual Studio is creating the solution for us. The solution will contain PCL project, where we put all the shared code for our user interfaces. And here we mean by shared, we'll share the user interfaces, and also we'll share the code for the application logic. So we'll have one solution, and we'll write all the code in our PCL project. Then the Android, iOS, and Windows projects, all that they will do is that they will read the code written in the portable class library, and they will try to map it to Android specific user interface and to iOS user interfaces. So you see here we get now those projects for Android, iOS, and also for Windows. They all have, they reference the PCL project. So if we take a look at the Android references, we can see that here it references the app2 which is the PCL project in my application. Right here. So we put all the code in the PCL. In the PCL project, we do have an app.xaml.cs, which is the entry class for my application. This is like um, the main function. So here is the entry for my application, and it will execute, or it will show us the main page. The main page here is a page in Xamarin Forms. So for that, it's called content page. And inside this content page, we have shown this label that shows welcome to Xamarin Forms. This label will be shown on all platforms, Android, iOS, and Windows. For Windows, it will be mapped to a text or to a text block. For Android, it will be a text view, and for iOS, it will be UI label. So this is a common or a shared object that will be mapped to each specific object in all three platforms. So let's take a look at this user interface. And here, one of the cool things with Xamarin Forms is that you can use the uh, Xamarin Forms preview. You can get that from the Views folder here, from the Views menu. You can go to other windows and look for Xamarin Forms preview. It's right here, Xamarin Forms preview. And this will give you a design overview of your application. So you don't need to execute your application or to run your application on emulator in order to see the user interface, because you have this previewer that will give you an overview of your app. So choose to get an overview for iOS, and here I think I need to build my project in order to get an overview. So you see, you can get an overview for either for iOS or for Android, and either for phone or tablet. Let's wait it for time it builds. And of course, guys, if you have questions, then we'll have a Q&A session after my demo. So you can post all your questions in the discussion area at the right of the video player. Cool, so now it builds the project. Let's try it again. Cool, now I get the overview on iOS, and here it's showing that label welcome to Xamarin Forms. So I can change that to say welcome to Xamarin Marathon, for example. And here it changes immediately. So it gives me an overview of how my page will look like. I can run this app either on Android, iOS, or Windows application. So I will go and run it as Windows application. So I choose Windows UWP, and here I choose local machine. And with Windows, you need to also change this config here from any CPU to x86 or x64, because Windows applications could run on Windows machines, but also could run on Windows Mobile and other devices. Here we should specify the architecture of our hosting device. And here, because I'm running on Windows machine, so I choose x86. Local machine, then run the application. The application is running. And right here we get our message saying, our label, welcome to Xamarin Marathon. Let's build something more interesting, and here we don't need just a label, but we create a hello world application where we put a stack panel, for example, or stack layout. The stack layout have an orientation vertical by default. So inside the stack layout, what I'm going to do, I'll add an entry where users can enter text values inside this entry. Then we'll add another element, which will be a button. So this button, let's say, will have a text saying hello world. So I choose right here text property, and then it's a text for say hello, for example. You see, it added that button for me and the designer right here. With it, let's add also a label to display hello that person. So let's say text hello, for example. So those three elements are displayed right here, but what if I want to display them at the center of this screen? Then I go to stack layout, and here I have some options. So here I have an option called vertical options. Vertical options let me choose where to show the stack layout according to the page. So I want to show it at the center of the page, and now it is at the center of a page. I can choose also to show it at the end, and now it is at the bottom of the page. Let's choose center. All right, here you can see that the entry, if I try to type a text saying your name, for example, it should be lowercase, your name. Just that the text have a font size is too low, the font size. So I can change the font size for that text by specifying here the property font size. And from font size, I can say I want it to be 30. Now I get a bigger text. Also, what I can do, I can change the text color. So I can say I want that text to be displayed in green color, for example. Now it is displayed in green. So you see how the designer is really helping us to polish our user interface. This way we can do the button. I can choose a background color for my button. Let's say I want the background color to be the blue, for example. Choose this one, the blue, and I want the, and now with the blue, you can see the text inside that button. So I can also change its text color to say I want it to be displayed in white, for example. And here you see I get a list of colors I can choose from. So I'm displaying it in white, and I also can change its font size, and it's the same name of the property as used with the entry. So change the size, let's say 30. Same here for our label, say also font size equal 30. So now the three elements are too close each to other, so I can change the spacing between those values by going to stack layout and use here the property spacing. And with spacing, let's say 20, you see now I do have a little spacing between all the elements. You can see that also here all the elements are stick to the right and left sides of my page, but I want to add some spacing there. So what I can use here, I can go to stack layout and use padding. So padding will add spacing. Let's say I want that padding to be 20, okay? And here it adds that spacing between elements. Another alternative is to go and use margin, and margin will do almost the same thing. If I say 30 here, we'll add another margin, but the difference here between padding and margin is that padding will try to add margin to the items inside inside this stack layout, but margin will make the stack layout smaller. Okay, so padding doesn't affect the height and width of the stack layout, but margin did. So this is now our user interface. Let's run this app again on Windows. And here it is our Xamarin Forms application running on Windows with the text in green, with the spacing values, and with the say hello button. Now, if I click say hello, then nothing happens because I don't have a click event with this button. So let's create that click event. We create it within the button element right here. We do have click event, click it event. So events will be executed in each time I click on this button. Let's create that click event. Let's call it say hello, click it. Then let's copy that name. And then we define the event handler and the code behind of our main page. There's no here, but I am main page.xaml. There we write the user code and with the code behind the C# code right here. We write the animations, we write also the code for event handlers. So let's create our event handler. It's a private method that return void. And then it's called the same name, say hello, click it. This one accepts two parameters. The first one of type object, we call it O, and the second one is type event arcs, we call it E. Actually, here we call it S and E by convention. Then inside here, we type the code. What we want to do here is that when the user types a name here, then click say hello. A message displaying and label will say hello plus that name. So to do that, the first thing to do is to get the value typed by the user inside this entry. So that we define a variable, we call it name, and we want to get the value typed here. We can get that by accessing this entry, and we can access it by giving it a name. You know, in JavaScript, for example, we can access elements by their ID, but in Xamarin Forms, we can access those by their names. So we give it a name, we say x dot name equal, then we specify a name for that entry. Let's call it name entry, for example. I give it a name, then I come back right here and type name, and now I get name entry displayed in IntelliSense, which helps me here to recognize all the elements that I have created in my XAML code. So I access name entry dot, I want to get the text, so I got dot text. I get that name. Now I want to show a message or to create a message to be displayed inside this label. So let's call it our hello message, then equal hello plus the name. Okay. I want to display that hello text inside this label. So again, I need to access this label in order to change its text property. So I go and give it a name. So right here, don't say, I go to my label and say x dot name equal hello label, for example. You see here, I'm using x dot 2 points with name, but I should not use name without x2 points. If I do this, then my application will crash. Instead, I have to use the x2 points. That's the syntax with Xamarin Forms. So don't forget that. Now I can access this hello label from my code behind. Hello label, the text equal. I won't change the value, the text displayed to be the one corresponding to hello. So now I can display that hello text. Let's run the application on Windows. Here it is. Now our application is running. And here if I try to type the name, let's say Xamarin Marathon. Say hello, and here it's displaying that it's hello Xamarin Marathon. The same app, of course, runs for Android and iOS because here it's a Xamarin Forms application. Good. So I hope this could help you to get started developing Xamarin Forms application. You get this designer here that will help you. You get IntelliSense, and you write your user interface code in XAML right here, which is a really intuitive design language. But what's now if you want to add some other features for your application? Let's say you want to add, you want to access the camera, you want to take photos or take videos to your users, or maybe you want to launch the maps so that you show your user how to go to the store, for example, or how to go to a certain address. Some other features like scanning barcodes or so on, how we can access those. So I have already created some tutorial videos on YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube page right here, if I launch that, you go to youtube.com. I have organized all this content in playlists. So you might want to take a look at there. So here, for people interested to take a look at all the plugins, so I do have this playlist, Xamarin and Visual Studio plugins, where here I show you how to create plugins that could show you how to show a pie, for example, a chart pie here in Android and Windows. Then how you can share text to social media, to Facebook and Twitter. If you want to monetize your application to start adding, generating money from your app, maybe you want to use AdMob, and this app, I show you how to use AdMob in your application. We also have some other videos posted recently. If you go to the channel and take a look at the recent videos, right here, I have this video. I recommend you you go and take a look at it. It show you some of the really useful Xamarin Forms NuGet packages you can use. So here you can learn about how to use settings to store data in your app, geolocation for using maps, geofences, how to show local notifications, zigzag for scanning barcodes, and so on. I also show you how to use that and how to get the source code with all the tutorials that shows you from A to Z how to use those plugins. So this is really useful, and I recommend people go to check those out before starting developing their applications, because I get a lot of people who go and develop all the code for this plugin, while we do have plugin ready and written by experts, plugins that do all the functionality for you. So you don't need to write the code yourself, but instead go and take a look at what is already existing before implementing the code yourself. Save your time and save yourself writing lots of code. Cool. For people who are just beginners to Xamarin Forms, I would recommend they go and watch this video, this playlist, cross-platform apps with Xamarin Forms. This is really useful if you want to get to know all the user controls in Xamarin Forms. So here we learn about the label, button, and entry as today, but maybe you want to learn how to do navigation to navigate from page 1 to page 2, how you can pass parameters to that second page, how to use tablet page, and the tablet page here, it allows you to swipe vertically and horizontally. If you want to use list view, and implement a list view that shows a list of your products, how you can customize that list view to show the pricing and also the name of the product also, for example. Then maybe you want to use the master detail page and lots of other cool features that I'm explaining right here in this playlist. How you can use the switch, for example, and here I get lots of questions for using checkbox and radio buttons in Xamarin Forms, but we don't have radio buttons in Xamarin Forms, but instead what we do is we use switch. So the switch, as you can see them here, they are meant to replace the checkbox and the radio buttons in Xamarin Forms. You see here I can turn its state to true or false. So you can use those to replace the checkbox and the radio buttons. So this is the switch. Cool. Toolbar items. This is really a nice feature in Xamarin Forms where here you can create toolbar. Let's take a look at the demo here. You see in Windows, the toolbar is the menu item that shows at the bottom of the page. And on Android devices or on Windows also shows the same way. Let's take a look again at Android. You see here in Android, it's showing right here this plus button. That's our toolbar item. So this video shows you how to implement that and how to create events to be executed when the user clicks that items. Some other cool features is the gesture recognizer, and the gesture recognizes enable you to add click events to a grid. And this demo we saw how we can add a click event to a button, but the click event doesn't exist inside a grid. If you go inside a grid element, then click it, you won't get that. Instead, what we use is gesture recognizers. So through gesture recognizers, we can click on a grid. So that's important to know for beginners. Maybe you want to make your application looks better and get rid of the default Xamarin splash screen that shows you Xamarin icon. Instead, you want to create your own splash screen, then this video will show you how to do that. Here you can see at when the application launches, I have created or customized the splash screen for Android and for Windows. So let's see that on Android, and you see this is my customized splash screen that's shown before the application shows the main page. Cool. Maybe on your app also, you want to add a search experience. So you have your app manages a list of products or manages a list of employees, and you want your users to be able to go and search for a certain product by typing the name of that product, for example. Then here I show you how to use the search bar in Xamarin Forms to perform a search. So you see right here, we do have the user could enter a name, then look at it, and here you see in iOS and on Android, when the user types the name and the text changes, it immediately goes to look for that product with that name. Cool. So those are all the videos that should help you to develop your Xamarin Forms application and get, at the end, create a really good application that runs on Android, iOS, and Windows. Now that's all I have to do in the demo. And now let's move to see if we do have questions. So I turn back here. Let's now stop sharing my screen. Let's see if we do have questions from you guys. So Firas, if you can help me. But before doing this, let's say Firas, for the certification. I saw that some Xamarin Marathon members have already got their certificates from Microsoft. Firas, I think he's muting his mic. Firas? Okay. So Firas will join us, and let's see the questions. So right here, let's see the first ones. Okay, hello. How to create frequently asked questions page in Xamarin Forms. That's really simple. So you just add a page to your application, and then you create the content statically. You don't need to make it dynamically because you already know your questions and know the answers. So you just create stack layout, and beside that stack layout, put create labels. And the first label, you put the first question. The second label, you add the answer for that question. Then a third label to add the second question, and so on. And maybe you want the questions to be displayed in bold or with a bigger size, and the answers with another font size, for example. So you can do that simply. Another question, wish everybody could help me. Thank you. Right, I want a page in which I have many questions. When I click on any question, then below that question, the answer should be displayed. In this case, maybe you want to put all your questions and answers inside a list view. And whenever you click on an item on that list view, then you want to show the answer. And the answer is hidden at first. So you want each item to have a question, then the answer inside the same item template. When you click the item, then maybe you want to show the answer that was hidden by default. I do have a video called Item Template Selector that might help you to do this in Xamarin Forms. Let's take a look at another question. I have created my app using cognitive services, but key is not from Azure. I have used it from official site of cognitive services and submitted the app. Still, the evidence is in pending review. For cognitive services, yes, if the key is not from Azure, then that's okay. And I think the only way to get the key is from the cognitive services portal. You cannot get a key from Azure, as I know. So if your app can call the cognitive services API successfully, then there is nothing to worry about. And here I'm not sure about the evidence, but if your application works fine, then I believe you can get your app approved. So maybe it's just the time that maybe they are receiving lots of apps to approve. And a solution on how can I get cognitive key by Azure. Maybe I'm not updated on this, but again, you can get a cognitive key within going to Azure. Okay, from Azure, you just pay for the paid subscriptions. If your app uses more than 5,000 requests to the API, then at that time you might want to get a paid subscription. But if your app doesn't reach that limit, then you can stay with the free subscription key. Can read PDF file in Xamarin iOS and achieve long press events in it. Oh, this should be a little bit advanced scenario for reading PDF file. I'm not sure how to do that in Xamarin iOS. Maybe you can use the default PDF app, but in that case, you cannot get user interaction from an external app unless you are using a component. Maybe it's a paid component that display the PDF in your Xamarin iOS application. In that case, maybe you can get events like long press events. Another question: make web service with Xamarin in easy video. I do have a playlist that shows you how to create web services in ASP.NET. Then that web services communicates with a database. It is a SQL Server database. And then a third tier is our Xamarin Forms application that communicates with those web services to send data, to store a list of products, for example, get that data and show it inside our Xamarin Forms application, and so on. So go and check that playlist. It's called Advanced Xamarin Forms Applications. Good. Another question. Custom render. I don't have yet a video about using custom renderers, but maybe you can choose the channel, the Xamarin YouTube channel or the channel of James Montemagno. They have a cool video about custom renders in Xamarin Forms. Here, custom renders allows you to use specific iOS or Android features that doesn't exist in Xamarin Forms. Okay. So, for example, in Android, we do have the round button, or we call it, I forget that name, but when you open the Gmail application, and you want to compose a new email, then you do have that round button at the right bottom of the screen. That button, it doesn't exist in Xamarin Forms. It only exists on Android, and it also doesn't exist even in iOS. So it's specific to Android. So to create it, you cannot do that from Xamarin Forms, but instead you use custom renderer to implement that button in your application, and it will be shown only on your Android application. So this is a way to access specific platform-specific features in your app. Let's see some other questions. Okay, question from Danny. Can you help me? I am looking for a way to make navigation from content page to master detail page and set page and detail page in the same time. Good. What you are doing. So from content page to master detail page, there is an article that shows you how, the best practices for doing that. And what it tells is that you should get a reference to your main page property from within your application from that is inside the app.xamarin.cs. So from there, you create a reference to your main page, and in each time you're going to change that main page to point either to your content page or to your to your master detail page. There is another alternative, which is a little bit simpler, that uses the navigation page. So you initiate your main page to navigation page, and then you go and change, or you navigate normally from within your content page and master detail page. But the first approach is kind of better. Also, with master detail page, it's always recommended to create the navigation from within the detail page. So use your detail page in each time to create the navigation. Don't confuse the user if he's on the content page and he expects when he swipe from left to right to get that master page, then just don't confuse him. He expects to get the master page, he should get it. And that simplifies for you the development of your application. Another question from Rohit Kumar. I want a page in which I have many questioners. When I click on any question, then below the questioners an answer. So this is, I think I have answered this question. So you might hide your answer and show only your question. Then when you click on the item, you go and show your answer again. How to validate a question from Sani Multani, how to validate Xamarin Form with message. What does this mean? How to validate Xamarin Form with message. I think my last three videos, I have created a video for validating user input. If you have in your application, the user types an email, for example, then before submitting that email to your server or before say accepting that email, maybe you want to do validation for that email. So you can make sure that email have alt, then dot after that alt, and have the semantic of an email. So how to do this? I have created a video that shows you how to do this using, it uses regex expressions, regular expressions. So you create your pattern, how the image should look like, and then you apply that regex pattern to your email. The same thing could be applied for passwords, for example. So if you want your users to type only passwords that have at least 8 characters, you want the password to contain uppercase and lowercase and letters and numbers also. So you can do that also with regex expressions. So go and check that video. A question from Ali Khan. I have created my app using cognitive service, but key is not from Azure. I use a site and submitted the app. Evidence is still okay. I have answered that. And the solution: how can I get cognitive um, by Azure? I believe every participant in Xamarin Marathon have access to an Azure subscription, and from that subscription, you can create services, and also if that apply, then you can get a cognitive key from within Azure. Go and check the videos about cognitive services posted in channel 9. I would recommend that. A question from Liam and Nguyen. Do you have video about customer renderer and dependency service? I don't have videos about those yet, but maybe I should think about doing this. If you want good videos, good content about those, then check the Xamarin YouTube channel and James Montemagno channel also. Mina Fathi. Mina Fathi is asking about the performance of forms. Is the same for as the performance of Xamarin Native? It's slightly better. The Xamarin Native is slightly better than Xamarin Forms in performance, because Xamarin Forms adds another layer on top of Xamarin Native. So adding that layer will make your application a little bit, really a little bit, it will take a little bit of time to execute and pass that layer to achieve the native layer of Xamarin. But in general, that little bit uh, uh, of time execution is not really huge, and there is lots of good practices to make your application as performant as a native Xamarin. And those best practices um, are concentrated in the UI and your page. So when you are creating a page, it's better to not create lots of objects, for example. So if you want to add a button, don't create that button inside a grid, and that grid inside another grid, and that grid inside another stack layout. So try always to minimize the tree of your XAML code. So with lesser elements and with lesser XAML code, you get a better app in terms of performance. Could you, Ali Khan, could you please take a look at my evidence? I don't manage the evidence in Xamarin Marathon. I only do videos and tutorials and show you how to use Xamarin. But maybe the team in Xamarin Marathon, they should get back to you soon. Richard Fernandez is asking, how can I implement a button tab bar in Android? So I have shown how to do this in the videos I have showed. So you go to my channel and check for context menu. Or actually check for, I forget what's called it. It should be either context menu or menu bar items. Okay, just go and check for menu bar items that will create tab bar buttons in your application. Let's see if you do have other questions. How can I implement? Farhan Haji is asking, how can I implement Azure push notification on Xamarin Forms? I have created a plugin and a video that shows you how to integrate push notifications, Azure push notifications to your Xamarin Forms application. And that plugin works on iOS, on Android and Windows. And unfortunately, it doesn't work on iOS. If you don't need iOS, then maybe you want to go to use that plugin. It allows you to create tags and to subscribe to push notifications based on tags. For example, saying you are building a news application which you have news related to politics and sports, and you want to enable users to subscribe only to news related to sports, then he can use the tag for sports, for example, and he will get only push notifications related to sports, not politics and not other subjects. So go and check that. The video should be called Azure push notification with Xamarin Forms. Check that from my YouTube channel. Any idea on how can I implement Expander in Xamarin Forms? A question by Rohit Kumar. Expander in Xamarin Forms. I have no idea, but maybe if you go to the GitHub and look for a project called XLab, I believe it's now a really outdated project, but maybe I believe there was a component called expander there, where you click on an item, then it will display the hidden label, for example. So go to GitHub and check for X Labs. Any idea how can I? Okay, that was the question. Sunny Multani is asking, how can I show error message in a register form? I have showed this in one of my videos. It's one of my 3 latest videos. So if you go to the channel and click on the videos, you can get it. It shows you how to validate email. And in the same video, I show an error if the email is not a valid email, for example. Okay. In that video, I'm using behaviors, but also you can simply use a label at the bottom of the entry, and that label will be hidden. And if the user types a non-valid email, then that label will be shown with the um, with the text error. Ali Khan is confirming non-cognitive keys is available and it's only for premium users on Azure. Yeah, good. A question from Sunny Chan. Is the XAML inform the same as UWP XAML? No, it's not the same XAML. But semantically, it is the same, as you have the basic, the same concepts. You have elements with attributes, and you can create other elements inside those elements, as we have seen in the demo. We have created a button inside a stack layout. So it is the same concept, the same syntax, uh, but not the same names, or actually not the same syntax, but the same structure of uh, the same concept of the of XAML code. So instead, for example, for UWP, we have text block, but in Xamarin Forms, we have a label to create, to show a text. In UWP, we have text box to show an entry in Xamarin Forms. Some elements are the same. For example, the grid, it exists in Xamarin Forms and also it exists on UWP. The list view also exists uh, on both platforms. Stack layout in Xamarin Forms is called stack, I believe it was called stack panel in UWP. Mina Fathi is asking for a video that shows extendable. I take that into consideration. Another question here for applying for a job with content on YouTube. Um, what I recommend for people who are beginners, who are fresh graduated and want to start to get a job as mobile developer, content, videos on YouTube, articles on the web are great to start with. But in addition to that, I strongly recommend that you start developing real application. What I mean by that is you define a project. Let's say you want to create a to-do app, for example, and to that app you spend, let's say, 2 months, 3 months at least developing that app with all the features from Xamarin Forms. So you use all the UI elements, you use the list view, you use the buttons, everything related to UI, and also you try to make that app runs smoothly and nicely in Android, iOS, and Windows. Then you start adding a backend to that app. For example, to store that to-do list on a backend, and then retrieve it when the user logs to your application. And here I recommend also learning how to implement authentication. I have videos that shows you how to do that using OAuth standard and so on. Also think about offline mode where you can use SQLite database. So online content itself, that's not enough at all to get a position. It depends on the recruiter, but for me, I recommend you go and develop a real application. You write lots of code and you spend time debugging your application so that you get a really good understanding of how your application works. You need to touch the code, you need to touch your app, you need to live with your app, you need to suffer from bugs that appears in your app so that you can really learn, because I always say that learning platform, learning development, is learning all the bugs that could occur on that platform. Because here, when after starting typing code, you will find everything describing development as it is really nice to do, and it's simple, and it's not time consuming, and things are just works fine. But in reality, you have lots and lots of bugs, lots of errors, lots of things that doesn't work as described on the web. For that, we have Stack Overflow, for example, that could really help you to solve those issues and build a better application. So don't wait for things to be 100% easy. It needs to invest time, energy, and concentration so that you can really learn how the best way how to develop apps. Another question from Nathan M. Uses that tablet bar can be used to create button bar, but how do we get it to display in the button of the Android similar to iOS? I believe for now the tablet bar from Xamarin Forms, it doesn't allow you to show it at the bottom of your page. It only shows at the top of your page. Okay, so you cannot show it at the bottom unless you create a custom render when you create a custom tablet bar. Cool. Let's say if you do have some other questions. Any other questions? Um, how many of you have get their certificate from Microsoft? How many of you have submitted their apps to the Xamarin Marathon? Okay, quite a few. Okay, okay. I believe you still have time if you want to join now this Xamarin Marathon competition. Then I believe you still have time to join. And I really encourage you to go and join that marathon. Good. So this was all for this session about Xamarin Forms, Xamarin Forms and Xamarin Marathon. I hope it was helpful for you. And join us for the next sessions when we talk about other topics for developing native apps with Xamarin Forms that runs on Android and iOS and uses Azure as a backend for its web services. So thank you, and bye-bye for the next videos. Goodbye. Bye-bye.